The decisions they make influence sports in Arizona now and in the future. Every move they make is news. Doug and Wolf present Newsmakers Week 2014. Presented by National Bank of Arizona. Arizona Sports. Now on 98.7 FM.
Again, thanks a lot to Dave Tippett for coming in when it's his Olympic break.
Tip.
He even said, yeah, now's the time we're going to take a couple days off. And what's he doing? He's coming in for Newsmakers Week. And really great to have the Coyotes head coach in here. And then a fixture of Newsmakers Week, Lon Babby, the president of basketball operations, has been with us ever since he took over as the president of basketball operations. And he joins us here on Newsmakers Week, presented by National Bank of Arizona. So we had you on. You were nice enough to come down for the 12 Days of Fushaw finale. Good. I'm glad that you got your glad you got your T-shirt on, but of course not today. But now we say it again to anybody else that's nice enough to come in and listen this morning, is that this is, I don't want to say shocking, but it is. I mean, I don't have a better word for it, for what is going on this year with the Phoenix Suns. Are you shocked?
I wouldn't say shocked. That's extreme. I'd say, pleasantly surprised that we've made progress as quickly as we've made it. I'm not shocked because I knew the infrastructure was in place. I had tremendous confidence in the people that work for us. That I knew Ryan McDonough was going to be great at the job. I particularly was confident that Jeff and his coaching staff would be fantastic. And so, yes, I think we're surprised at the rapidity of the progress and the extent of it, but I'm not shocked, because shock would say that we didn't have the pieces in place. And I knew going into the season that we were on the right track and that we had come through the worst of this transition period. And the fact that we are where we are is gratifying, but it's just the beginning.
Lon, how does it feel? Because this is a smashing success right now, and you should take credit for it. Is that uncomfortable for you? Because this is the way that it works. You hire people, and then you let them do their jobs in professional sports. And if they do well, the person that hired them gets the credit. How do you feel about that?
To me, it's not about the credit. I mean, I feel great for our organization. I feel great for our community that, we've come through a transit. We're in the middle of a transition, or the beginnings of a transition, but we've come through the worst part of it. I look back and I still think we handled it the right way. I think a test of the highest level of leadership is shouldering responsibility and diverting credit. And I've tried to do that, but I guess by saying that, I'm violating the principle. But that's how I feel about it. I felt it was my job to be a little bit more the face of the franchise when I knew we were going to be going through hard times. And I'm at a stage in my career where I felt like I could absorb that. And now that things are going well, the people who are making great decisions and doing a great job, like Ryan and Jeff, should be front and center and basking in that glory. And I'm happy to be riding on the side of that, because, that was my job when I got here. And, we haven't accomplished anything other than get us on the right track. And I think we'll move forward now. It may be fitful at times, but we're going to move forward towards the level we want to get to and finally bring a NBA championship to Phoenix.
Now, when you said that you're proud of the way that everything has gone, I recently wrote a blog that actually spoke directly about you. And I have said that if you're going to blame Lon Babby for the Blanks era and for the Lindsey Hunter era, which to me is fair to blame me for it, I don't know if you like that, but also you've got to then give you extraordinary credit for exactly what's going on right now. To me, it's hypocritical to go one way or the other.
It's the way it works.
You've either got to be even keel that you didn't have much to do with either of them, or look at the past as a problem and look at the future as a great success under you. I ask you to judge me. Am I being fair by saying that? Am I being too harsh by looking at Lance Blanks and Lindsey Hunter through great frustration, but giving you great praise for where we are now?
No, I think anything you say from a position of integrity and any opinion you have, I respect, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I just think you have to take a look at the bigger picture of where we were when we got here and where we are now. And when you're in this job, you defend people that you're working with as long as you can until you make the decision that it's time to make a change. And I think we did that. But if you look at the arc from when I got here and to where we are now, it's been a relatively short period with some very painful moments, but the length of the pain wasn't very long relative to the arc of a normal NBA transition. And I'm not saying that we've completed it, but we're certainly on the right track.
I'll say it for you because you can't say this. Detroit Pistons, Philadelphia 76ers, Orlando Magic since Shaquille left, things like that.
Well, teams can go, Brian always talks about the fact that they lost 18 straight games in Boston, and they thought they were all going to get fired. And that summer, they were able to trade for Kevin Garnett and my client Ray Allen, and they won the championship. And that's the nature of this job. And I think if you look, hopefully when I leave here, we'll look back on it and we'll say, yeah, that was a painful season they had in 2012, but it was one season. And I will defend, for as long as I have breath, the decision to let Steve Nash and Grant Hill and those guys run it out. And, we had 2 seasons that were, I guess by any definition, mediocre, but we were 500 and we were in the playoff race until the last week of the season. And if Channing Frye didn't get hurt each year, we would have made the playoffs, and that would have been a respectful end to that era. But at the same time, we were trying to squeeze what we could out of that without compromising the future and begin planning. So if you look
difficult.
So if you look back on it now, it all makes sense. But living through it was torture sometimes, no question about it. And last year in particular was very, very rough. But here we are today, and it's it makes it that much more gratifying.
You mentioned when you hired Ryan McDonough, you knew he was going to be great. Why did you know that?
Well, he's an extraordinary. I say young, but I don't mean to suggest too young. He has a tremendous amount of confidence. Thought what we needed. I brought a number of candidates in here. We whittled them down. It came down to a couple that Robert and I were closely considering. What Ryan had that I think distinguished him was a sense of confidence and a sense of being an ability to be definitive in his opinions. And that's one thing I thought we were lacking. We needed someone, first and foremost, who was knowledgeable about the business and knowledgeable about the players, wherever they might be located, and that, he has that to a fairly well. But most importantly, not to be wishy-washy about opinions. If you asked about a player or you asked about a circumstance, he had a definitive opinion. And, that's all I want. I want someone who will put their ideas out into the marketplace, debate them with you, and reach a conclusion and move forward. The message is agree, disagree, align. And he had that quality, and he had a sense about him that gave you the feeling that he was going to be terrific in the job, and he's a great communicator. And, he was the right person at the right time. And he also was asking questions that led me to believe that he understood where we were and what we had to do and how we had positioned ourselves. And he's a smart guy, and he would not have taken this job if he didn't feel confident that we were going to be able to move forward.
So coming up next, the question for Lon Babby as it relates to the basic statements that Ryan McDonough has already made. This team is surprising, and the trade deadline is coming. So have they surprised their way into a monumental move, maybe a small piece, or is it still about 2014-2015? That's coming up next on Arizona Sports, now on 98.7 FM.
The decisions they make influence sports in Arizona now and in the future. Every move they make is news. Doug and Wolf present Newsmakers Week 2014. Presented by National Bank of Arizona. Arizona Sports. Now on 98.7 FM.